Hi everyone. We will study today the object-oriented style of mobile applications. Until now, we were studying a very simple mobile apps, and the reason that why we were studying a simple one because I want that you guys first be familiar with the Flutter flow and the Flutter structure and how the mobile application works. And after that, we will slowly go to the complex structure. So today I want to introduce you guys with the object-oriented style. In object-oriented programming, we define a class, and each class has a separate logic, and each class represents a separate entity or object. Uh, for example, a student or a course or a mobile or any product and so on. Okay, so uh, then we once we define a class, then we create objects of that, and then in this way our logic is modular means the code is nicely arranged and is easy to modify in a future. Okay, so then if we are using classes and objects in Flutter, then there are two concepts, two main categories of classes in Flutter, which are called stateless class or stateless widget. Okay, before the class, as we studied earlier, everything in mobile in Flutter is actually a widget. Everything is a widget. Okay, so widget is nothing, is just like a function. For example, let's suppose a button. Okay, so you see the button has a unique design and unique functionality, so then the button is a widget. Actually, in Flutter programming, everything that you see on the screen is a widget. You know, the top navigation bar, the top bar, which is called app bar, that is a widget. Any text is a widget, button is a widget, even the whole screen, the skeleton by itself is a widget. So anything in in Flutter programming is a widget. So don't confuse with the word widget anymore. So whenever we are using stateless widget or stateless class, and we have two type of classes, one we will call stateless class and one we will call the stateful class. So the stateless and the stateful, we can call these classes also, and we can call this widget also. Okay, so what is a stateless widget? You know, stateless widget only require a build method. Only one method is inside there, and that build method only returns a widget tree or a widget. Later on, I will show you through coding what does this mean. But whenever you are defining a stateless class, you will must define this build method. Method means a function. So in different programming languages, this word is used alternatively. Some programming languages are using function, some are using method. So in Dart programming and in Java programming, it is mostly use a method. Okay, and in C++ programming, we call it a function, and in Python also. Okay, so this is one property of stateless class. Another property, this stateless, you know, the word stateless shows that is no state updates. What does this mean? That this coding cannot update itself. Update itself means that, let's suppose you have a button and you click the button, so after the clicking, another thing, something will happen. So then the new thing which happens is a new state. Actually, something updates will happen. But in case of stateless widget, we don't need any update. It cannot update, and it must be rebuilt completely if the data change. Meaning to say, the whole app must be rebuilt then it can rebuild if there is a change, but it cannot. It is simply not an interactive component of the mobile app. Like for example, a user select a drop down, a user click something. No. So whenever you need such thing which doesn't need to be changed, and which doesn't need that the user will interact with, that is called stateless, and we will use stateless widgets there. And why we use stateless widget for such purpose? Because if something is of static nature, meaning to say it is not changeable, then we should use stateless widget, because it will speed up the performance. Okay, because if every after every interaction the code is rebuilding and uh, updating a new state, and actually nothing has been changed, so it doesn't make sense. So it's a good idea that and the app will be very faster and very responsive if we use a static widgets for such purpose where it is not changing. Okay, on the other hand, stateful widgets are mutable. Mutable means changeable. Its state can be changed and can change over time. Meaning to say, it it is interactive. Actually, the user can click it, the user can select it, the user can make a decision on the basis of that, and something happens when the user interact with. So they maintain their own state, meaning to say after some time it has one state, and if the user interact with, then its state change to something else, then it maintain the new state, and if the user again interact with, and then it change its state to the new state. So in this way, this type of widgets is keep changing and keep maintaining the new state of the app. So where we should use it, we will use a stateful widgets where the data is dynamic, such as a counter. You know, the first default app, the counter, when we were clicking the floating action button, the number is keep changing. So you know that changing nature will be stateful class. And stateful class is consist of what? It consists of two classes. You know, the stateless widget was consist of one class only, and that class was returning only a widget or a widget tree. This class stateful widget is consist of two classes. The widget itself, one the widget itself, and the other class is a state class. Later on I will show you through coding, and we will do through examples. You will see that this uh, um, class and the state class. Okay, and these are actually mutable. Mutable means it rebuild, but you know, it only rebuild that particular class only. It doesn't build the whole app. Okay, so this is why it is stateful class. So whenever you need any such UI which need to be changed when the user interact with, then we should use stateful widget. So you see, this is just a sample code that where we you see this count is keep updating, but if you see this is in a stateful widget. You see this class counter widget extend stateful widget. So you see this class is inherited. The word extend means inheritance. Okay, so in that programming and in Java, the word extend is used. In C++ programming, we use colon. I hope you still remember. Otherwise it means inheritance. So you see, this is inherited from stateful widget. So once it is inherited, then it has two classes. Okay, one, this class by itself, this one, you see, the counter widget state. Okay, this class, is inherited from state class. Okay, this is the state class, and the other one class by itself. Okay, so meaning to say, you see, this one is the class by itself that you are defining, and the other class is a state class. You see, counter widget state, and this is extended from state. Okay, and this state class uh, also has a build method, but you know, this build method and in the stateless build method, the difference is that this build method every time rebuild when the user interact with, and the other build method in a stateless widget is only rebuild when the whole app is refreshed. Okay, this is why whenever there is a dynamic content, we should use stateful widget. So the key differences between them, that you see, the state management. Which ones can manage a state? State means actually like a new data, new color, let's suppose. So the stateless widget is static, it cannot change, but in stateful widget, if you want, it can be changed. Okay, so in a stateful widget, it can maintain a state, and the state can be changed on the basis of user interaction. Immutability means changeable. So this one is immutable. Immutable means unchangeable, or mutable means it is changeable. A rebuild, this one only rebuild when the whole app is refreshed. Okay, and this one rebuild whenever a state change. Okay, whenever just a state change, like for example, when you click the floating action plus button, the number change from 1 to 2. Okay, and you click again, then change to 3. So you see, only the 3 changes, not the whole app is rebuilt. Okay, so use cases where we should use this one, we should use for static nature, and this one we should use for dynamic nature. Whenever the mobile apps is rebuilt, both are instantiated, but it only changes when the user interact with, and the stateless widget doesn't change. Okay, and both are disposed when no longer is needed in the widget tree. You know, the widgets are like this, that a parent widget, then child widget, then grandchild widget. It's are like this, but whenever there is no needed any widget, so it will be removed from the widget tree automatically to free up the RAM and the performance. Okay, and rendering means when they are displayed on a screen. So both render UI elements, but with different update mechanism. Meaning to say, a stateless widget, if let's suppose is just a text, so it also appear on the screen, but it appears like forever unless someone close the app, or unless someone refresh the whole app. But the stateful widget also display on the screen, but whenever the user interact with. So this one can update, the stateful widget can update, the other the other cannot update. So use stateless widget when the UI is static, is not changeable, all required data is passed through a constructor. Meaning to say, one time, because constructor is called when the whole app is loading. No internal state management is needed, meaning to say there is no content change uh, after launching the app. Then you should use stateless widget, and the performance will be optimized if you need a static data and you use a stateless widget. On the other hand, need that the UI need to change dynamically, meaning to say the UI may be based on the user options, so nobody knows the user will select what. So that is changing on the basis of user interaction. So this is at that time we need to use stateful widget. And user interaction modify the display. Yes, you see, whenever there is a new display based on the user interaction, then we should use stateful widget. Similarly, animation or data change over the time. If something is related to animation, or if something is connected to a database, and the data is coming from a database on the basis of uh, uh, user action, so then we should use a stateful widget. And this widget needs to maintain internal states. Why the Flutter has divided these widgets into two categories? Because it optimizes the performance, and it separates the concerns. Meaning to say, sometimes we need dynamic UI, sometimes we need static UI. So therefore we need two type of widgets. And I think it's really a great feature of Flutter programming.